This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
In his nightmares, he can see them. In his mind, he can hear them.
Locutus.
In his soul, he can feel them.
I've just received a report from Deep Space 5. Long-range sensors have picked up...
Yes, I know. The BORG. Set a course for Earth. Maximum warp.
Now, in Earth's darkest hour, he must fight them again.
Captain, Earth. Life signs?
Population approximately 9 billion. All BORG.
How?
Time travel. They went back and assimilated Earth. Changed history. I must follow them back. Repair whatever damage they've done.
But this time, they must travel to the past
April 4th, 2063.
to save our future.
You're all astronauts on some kind of Star Trek.
They invade our space, and we fall back. They assimilate entire worlds, and we fall back. Not again. The line must be drawn here.
It looks like the control deck's 26 up to 11.
Mr. Data and I are returning to the ship. Don't let them touch you!
Captain!
Data!
We must activate the auto-destruct sequence.
You want to destroy the ship and run away. You coward.
If you were any other man, I would kill you where you stand.
Let's rock and roll!
Destroy them. Watch your futures end.
Our shields and our weapons are gone.
Resistance is futile. Perhaps today is a good day to die.
John Luke, blow up the damn ship!
No! We are not going to lose the Enterprise. Not to the BORG, not while I'm in command.
Star Trek, First Contact.
We're back. Welcome to the next installment, the next chapter of our journey through the universe. Here on Pop Goes the Classics, I'm Scott Criscuolo. It is the continuing saga of the Star Trek motion picture universe. And we have reached a very important one for many reasons. But let me bring in my partner in crime, my purveyor, that has been on a roll here on this journey. We've had a ton of fun. And to reward him for his exceptional analysis, we get to do one that he's been particularly looking forward to. He's the former co-purveyor of OpenTheFridge.net, and he has gotten glowing reviews from everyone here at Place to Be Nation for his work, not only, of course, on our James Bond series project, but this one as well, my good friend, Tek. Hello.
Aw, thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
By the way, I told our hairstylist to start calling you that now, so at least I know when you go.
Oh,
I said that yesterday.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I said that yesterday.
The hell out of her.
We were looking for your name on the mural yesterday, so. Anyway, always a pleasure, man. And I know you've been particularly looking forward to this one, as have I. Everyone has been enjoying it, and thank you for the downloads and the comments. It's been a fun journey, and we still have a few left. So let us dive in. Tonight, we are finished completely with the original cast. Even the captain, James Tiberius, is gone. In its place is now this cast, and for the first time, they get the stage all to themselves. Tonight here on Pop Goes the Classics, we bring you Star Trek First Contact. November 22nd, 1996. At this point, Tek, in the Star Trek universe, let's see. It's only been 2 years. So, let's see. DS9 is on season 4?
In 1996?
Fall of 96? Just starting season 4, I think? I think so.
That sounds correct.
Yes, I think so. I think Star Trek, I think Deep Space Nine started. He's looking while he's confirming with us. Also starting up, and I believe
fall of '96, DS9 was starting its 5th season.
5th season. All right, there we go. Season 5. Also, for the first, well, I shouldn't say for the first time because it's been happening. We once again have overlapping series because also on the air right now is another show that made its debut in the fall. I believe it was the fall. It might have been the spring. It was the spring of 1995. So I believe
January of 95.
Yeah, January of 95. And so now here in the fall of 96, it is probably season...
the start of season 3.
Start of season 3. And we are, of course, talking about Star Trek Voyager, the first episode, the first show officially on UPN, the Paramount Network. Which is funny considering that's what their plan was a mere, 20 years ago. And kind of didn't do it. So, okay. So, we knew eventually after their show ended and, with what happened in Generations that finally the next gen cast would have the stage all to themselves. So what would the best thing to do in terms of plot and story to do for Jean-Luc and the next gen crew? Well, we might as well do a movie involving their biggest enemy, or Picard's biggest enemy. Of course, we spent multiple movies of the TOS group dealing with the Klingons. The Klingons now are on our side, sort of. They're either on our side or their own, not necessarily against us, if you watch the excellent episodes of both Next Gen and Deep Space Nine. So, of course, Tech, the TV guys who ran Next Gen are, of course, handling the TV shows now, DS9 and Voyager, decide to do the same thing. And let's put in the enemy of our current Captain, Jean-Luc Picard. And that, of course, is the Borg. Let me ask you something. Well, when you first heard or first saw the trailer, which was probably in the spring of '96, I would assume, what were you thinking? Did you before even knowing anything about the movie or whatever, were you thinking it was kind of predictable to, well, I guess they might as well go to the Borg, or were you like, oh, this is fucking great? Like, what were your thoughts when you first saw the trailer several months before?
Well, funny enough, the first thing I thought when I saw the trailer for First Contact was, didn't they blow up the Enterprise in the last movie? Because if you watch the trailer to First Contact, the Enterprise D is in it.
Yeah, that's true.
So that was my first. That was my first thought. No, I thought the Borg were great. The Borg, came and went throughout, the latter 6 seasons of Next Gen, and when they showed up, it was always a good time. From their first introduction in Q Who, and it was like, what the hell is this? This utterly near faceless, menace, all the way through to the end of, or the start of season 7 with, when they crossed over with Lore and they brought in, Hugh from iBorg and all, just this massive, intra-series crossover. But I was super excited, and especially since Voyager... Oh, no, that hadn't happened yet. Sorry, Voyager did a big thing with the Borg at the end of season 3. That was when they introduced 7 of 9. But I think that was more capitalizing on the success of this movie.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, no, I was ready to go for this one. I also liked it. You just mentioning the trailer. The First Contact teaser and the Generations teaser are very similar in that it starts with just ominous narration and something floating through space, and then that thing becomes the Starfleet symbol. And in the Generations trailer, it's kind of like this weird version of the Nexus, and the Enterprise flies towards it. And for this trailer, it was all Borgified, and then that's the Starfleet symbol, and a Borg cube flies towards it. So it was this cool symmetry they had going on. Sadly, it didn't continue after that.
I know. So we know now, and we kind of knew it at Generations, that they're going to get their own group in terms of production and creative people, producers, and that kind of thing. Obviously, the producers and the screenplay guys are are our usual crew that's handling modern day Trek, Rick Berman, Brandon Braga, Ron Moore, Peter Lauritsen, Marty Hornstein. So we know that we're, at least we're getting guys that at this point, at least Tech, we don't have to worry about outsiders coming in and trying to, well, for now anyway. The big thing was director. Let's talk about that for a minute. Who was going to direct? Cast we knew for the most part. The next gen cast, but we'll get to the villains in a minute. But that was also kind of easy. Who was going to direct? Now there had been apparently a big rumor, two very well known directors that were going to do this, but then did not. Not sure who those names are, but we do know that there were two very well-known directors that were asked to direct. Looking through my notes here, I don't see who the names are. I don't think they've ever been revealed. Do you know?
I do not.
Okay, I don't think so either. But they said two very well-known directors turned down the job. Somebody said one of them was James Cameron, and the other was Ridley Scott.
I could neither confirm nor deny that.
Yeah, I can't either. I read that and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know if I totally believe that or not. But they decided to look internally, just like they said, you know what? For most of the opportunities in the early years, this worked. So why don't we look from within? So they looked around and they thought, Patrick? Nah, he's not a directing type. He likes to act. What about him? Maybe. I think he'd do it. So, just like they did with Leonard before the search for Spock, they go to the other captain's number one, and Jonathan Frakes, our good bearded son of a bitch, sits in the director's chair. I believe he did a few episodes of the series.
Oh, you could say that.
Yeah.
By this time, over the course of Next Gen, he directed 8 episodes. He directed 3 episodes of Deep Space Nine and 3 of Voyager, all before this movie came out. So he had established himself as a competent Trek director.
Okay. Yes. And so at least they stayed. All right, I just read something. I was half right. The 2 rumored directors before Frakes, one of them was Ridley Scott, which would have been interesting. Would have been too cerebral? Maybe. The other one was rumored. John McTiernan.
Oh, my goodness. I would have been all over that one.
I know. For those that don't know John McTiernan, we will give you his resume. For those that don't know. We know Ridley Scott, of course. Ridley Scott directed Blade Runner. He directed Alien. His creds are good. But this is what he directed, okay? He directed a movie called Nomads in 1986. You probably never heard of it. But now we begin the run. He directed Predator, Die Hard, Hunt for Red October. Honestly, can I just stop there?
Yeah.
Really?
You could stop at Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yeah. Medicine Man, The Last Action Hero, which actually isn't a bad movie.
That is a horribly underrated movie.
It really is. And the AC/DC song Big Gun is damn good. Die Hard with a Vengeance. Then he did The 13th Warrior, The Thomas Crown Affair, Rollerball, the remake, and Basic. I'm trying to remember Basic. That's the one with Travolta.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one wasn't great.
Then he went to prison for tax evasion.
Yes, he did. Then he went to the pokey. So he's very let's just say he's very infamous. But anyway, he was the second choice, and he didn't take it. Then we got Frakes. So let's talk about the plot. The plot actually, probably the best thing to do when you're doing, for a debut movie for this cast is again, comfort zone. There was an episode, as you very well know, fine sir, There was an episode called First Contact. It took place. It was the 15th episode of season 4.
The one with BB Newirth.
The one with BB Newirth and Carolyn Seymour.
Where she tries to jump Riker's bones.
Riker's bones, correct. And also in that was Carolyn Seymour, who a lot of people know very well. She was in Survivors, the BBC series in the 70s. She's one of those ones that if you saw her, you knew who I'm talking about.
Yeah, or if you heard her.
Ton of shows, or if you heard her. Ton of shows, like TV shows. She did a pretty good number of films. She's been in episodes Heart to Heart, Greatest American Hero, Cagney and Lacey, Magnum P. I mean, all those shows in the 80s. You saw her, you knew who I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Anyway, she was in that episode as well, along with...
Gamers may know her as Dr. Chakwas from Mass Effect and Queen Mira from Gears of War.
That is quite true as well. She likes that, what was it?
Something Ice Brandy.
Ice Brandy. Aurelian Cerise.
Yeah. Sarah's Ice Brandy. That's it.
Sarah's Ice Brandy, yes. One of yours and my favorite DLC missions, or extra missions. And so First Contact, which everyone knows, well, you know what? I'm going to let you do that because you're the man. So for those that are a little unfamiliar with, because there may be some that are listening to this series that may not know anything about some of the, conventional stories of the franchise. What is First Contact?
The idea of First Contact?
The idea. Yeah, the idea.
It's first contact with an extraterrestrial culture or race.
Pretty much.
And that's what this whole movie hinges on.
Yep. And of course, the big one is, of course, when humans met Vulcans.
Spoiler alert.
Oh God! Well, for those that have enjoyed the franchise, we all know what that means.
Right.
It's when the Vulcans came to Earth based on something, and thus everything happened. So Frakes and the producers decide, why don't we do that and make this background a movie, particularly because of the other aspect of the film, which is, of course, the Borg. And we all know Picard's relationship to the Borg, because for a brief time, he was one.
Oh, amazing.
With one of the coolest names ever, Locutus. I love that name. Speaking of, on a side note, speaking of Locutus, for those that watch, I had to mention it because you know I was going to. For those that watch Star Trek Lower Decks, season's over, sadly. Very sadly, actually. As we're taping this. The finale this past week might have been the most delicious 30 minutes of Star Trek programming in the history of the franchise.
God, wonderful.
It was amazing. And I forgot when you and I were chatting about it Friday, I forgot the moment when I think it was Mariner when she said something and he goes, yeah, and he thought Wolf 359 was an inside job.
Oh, I died when I heard that.
That was awesome.
God.
Of course, I'm thinking Locutus.
And the Dominion War didn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah, the Dominion War didn't happen yet.
Yeah, brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely love it. Anyway, so obviously the relationship between Picard and the Borg was a big deal, and that plus the history of how everything started was a focal point of the plot. To give you a little background, in the 24th century, Picard awakens from a nightmare in which he relived his assimilation by the Borg on the show. And of course, that was the amazing 2-part episode called The Best of Both Worlds, which was it was the finale of season 3 and the premiere of season 4. Your thoughts on that 2-parter, by the way?
Oh my God. I wasn't actively watching Next Gen when it aired. I hadn't quite reached my Trekkie status at that point. But when I did see it, I knew how everything played out. But that cliffhanger is one of the best, not just in Trek, but in television, where it's just, Picard has been assimilated. They come up with a plan. Like if it doesn't work, we essentially have to kill Picard if it comes down to it. And there he is on the view screen. He's all threatening and Borgified and everything. And the last shot of the cliffhanger is a close up of Frakes of Riker, and he just says, "Mr. Worf, fire," and it cuts to black. And apparently, Patrick Stewart tells this story. He was in his car like a couple months later in California, and he was stopped at a red light, and a car pulled up next to him. They saw him, they recognized him, and they yelled, "You ruined our summer." Because of just how awful the cliffhanger was to leave them hanging there. But in terms of just a Star Trek story and television, it's regarded as most say the second best episode of Next Gen after The Inner Light. I agree with most of that. It's a fantastic episode. It took your main character, it took your captain, your hero, who's supposed to be, this stalwart, almost invincible character, and made him completely vulnerable. Captured, altered, turned into the villain. I mean, no, who does that? Who does that in television? So it was a ballsy move for the show. I mean, they had established themselves. The 3 seasons in, they had really started to find their legs after that, like 1.5 rough patches of season 1 and most season 2. But yeah, they swung for the fences on that one, and they hit a grand slam. Fantastic episode.
Yep, absolutely. Because that's gutsy. I mean, we've had episodes, just to kind of detour for a moment, because we do need to definitely lay the background down before we dive into the movie. The original series didn't go that crazy with Kirk. They didn't, they'd have episodes where he was a little kooky for 40 minutes, but and then you have the alternate goatee universe, but where there were a bunch of bloodthirsties, killing sex fiends or whatever that whole thing. They were kind of a mess. But I mean, we legitimately had a moment where, yes, Jean-Luc was a bad guy. Was he a bad guy? And who knew at the time, Tech? Who knew? Would Riker become the captain of the Enterprise and Picard becomes a heel? I mean, let's be honest. In the mid-90s, fuck it, why not? I mean, we're glad we glad as we watched the opener of season 4 that they didn't stick to it, but they could have. Absolutely. Could have. Why not? Yeah, that was the thing. That's another thing that made it such a great cliffhanger. You did not know, like, were they about to kill Picard in that, that order that Riker gives? Yeah, I agree. So from that, and the season ends, we still have Borg issues because we see them. We don't really see Borg much on Deep Space Nine because they're in a different quadrant. We do not. We never see the Borg. The only time you see the Borg on Deep Space Nine is in the opening of the first episode, which, oddly enough, is the Battle of Wolf 359, which is in the Best of Both Worlds Part 2 from Next Gen. Correct. So it establishes, like, hey, here's your new character. He was there. So, and that's it. And then the other funny part about it is when the Defiant, is debuted on Deep Space Nine, they say, oh, she was designed to fight the Borg. And you never see that on Deep Space Nine, but you see it in this movie. No. You finally get to see the Defiant fulfill her design. Correct. Yeah. And the other thing is, now Voyager touches the Borg, because they're in the quadrant, so they use the Borg like every 5th episode on that show. Yeah. Sometimes I thought it was overkill. I think it was because maybe it was a good crutch for them. I agree. They saw the popularity that this movie, and then just kind of leaned into it hard, and then you saw the Borg pretty much. I mean, hell, one of the main characters from season 4 on is 7 of 9, so you have a constant Borg presence to begin with. But yeah, they just kept popping up all the way till the series finale on Voyager. Yep. And they don't totally get affected because I'm pretty sure that after this movie we still see the Borg Queen. It's a different actress, but we do see the Borg Queen after that. So, all right. So the plot is the Borg goes into the future somehow. Past. I mean, I'm sorry. Our future. Yeah, thank you. Our future, their past, and assimilate Earth. Because that's a creepy moment when Data turns around and says, population 3-point-something billion, all Borg. And you're like, what the fuck? Yeah, it's a cool shot, too. Like, all the oceans are brown and the continents are silver. And, yeah, it's cool. It's very unnerving. Meanwhile, they figure that out. They see that, and they're like, well, we got to do something about this. Well, maybe we go back in time and stop them from going back in time, or stopping them when they go back in time. So they'll go back to April 4th, 2063, the day before First Contact holiday. Isn't it funny? We have April 5th and May 5th. At least it's easy. May the April 5th be with you, and may the 5th be with you.
May the 4th.
Well, no, the 4th is the day before.
Yeah, but that's the actual Star Wars day. May the 4th. May the 4th be with you.
Why did I think May the 5th? Oh,
I have no idea.
Crossing streams. I shouldn't be crossing streams. Not a good idea. It's like Kevin the Hat and Kathleen standing in the same hallway trying to have a conversation. Probably not a good idea.
Yeah, April 5th. Happy First Contact Day.
Exactly. April 5th.
I celebrate it every year. In preparation.
In preparation. April 5th, May 4th. There we go. Okay. Let me get myself back on my neck. All right. So they go back in time and they try to stop the Borg from doing what they do, and the plot ensues, and of course they do stop it, and there we go. We don't want to go too deep in the plot because we want you to see it. But let's go to our grades and grade our first category, which is the plot and the story. I think it's a huge step. I think it was smart. I don't want to say safe, because that's not fair. It was smart. You might as well, dance with who brung you. And it both time travel and the Borg are two things that Next Gen thrived on as two of their best plot points, story points over the 7 seasons. So your overall thoughts on the plot, and is it okay to be safe and smart at the same time?
Absolutely. This story is just a stroke of genius on the part of Ron Moore and Brandon Braga. These are two writers who had proven themselves time and time again on the series, writing fantastic stories, several of which have just, come to the top as some of the best. And they said themselves that, I think Rick Berman said it too, when making Generations, they had kind of a directive from the studio and whoever saying, like, these are the boxes you need to check off to make this movie. We have to have Kirk in it, we have to have Picard in it, we have to have them meet, and blah 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 blah. This movie, they say that they had free reign, and they couldn't have had more fun with that possibility. Is like, it's just a blank canvas. What can we do? What do we have in our back pocket? What can we follow up on? What can we introduce? What can we reintroduce? And not only did they follow up on a major storyline from their series, from Next Gen, they also managed to bring in a character and therefore a plot point from an original series episode. Mm-hmm. So you have your Borg, obviously, as your menace. Throw in a little Star Trek time travel, because who doesn't love a good time travel story? A good time travel story.
Correct.
And you set it in a time that, is our future, their past, as we said, to kind of explore, like the origins of, for lack of a better term, of Star Trek. Like, what was the flashpoint that created Starfleet or the Federation, or, just Earth's launch into the Trek mythos. And by doing that, you take a character from an episode of the original series, Sephram Cochrane, who appeared in Metamorphosis, season 2, episode 9, who is identified as the man who created warp drive on Earth. And they go, hey, we've got this character in our back pocket. Let's tie that in. And they do it flawlessly. And on top of that, they sprinkle in so many nods and Easter eggs, or call it whatever you want, to so much of what you've seen before. I mean, specifically a lot of stuff from Next Gen, or even shows that are already on. I mean, yes, all right, Best of Both Worlds on the Borg. Cool, check it off. Metamorphosis, Ephraim Cochrane. Cool, check it off. Throw in a cameo from Dwight Schultz, who played Reg Barkley. And just flesh that out. It's Reg Barkley, a character we love for the series, and it adds that element. Like, this is still the group. This is still the crew that we know from the show. Yes, we have a brand new Enterprise. We'll get to that. You see the Defiant. from Deep Space Nine. That's their great way of getting Worf into this story. You have a cameo from the Doctor from Voyager, a different program, but still Robert Picardo as the Doctor. You have a, cameo from Ethan Phillips from Voyager as the holodeck maitre d'. In the holodeck, they acknowledge the Dixon Hill novels that Picard loves so dearly. So it's just speckled with all this stuff that makes it feel like it's such an ingrained piece of Star Trek lore at this point. Like everything carries through so well. But when it comes down to this story about what eventually turns into Picard's, Moby Dick allegory, to the point where he's literally quoting Melville at the end of the movie.
I know.
About his vendetta against the Borg, and it takes this 21st century woman, Lily Sloan, played by the fantastic Alfre Woodard. Right. She just brings him back to Earth, so to speak, and tells him, you're out for blood. You're only good. The only thing they didn't end up saying is the famous quote, when you seek revenge, first dig 2 graves. Because he's out to do it. As she says, the Borg hurt you, and now you're out to hurt them back. And then he comes to that realization that it's not about revenge, and then the last piece is the Data subplot, where Data, who spent 7, 8, going on 9 years here, trying to, go beyond his android programming and become more human. Yes, in the last movie, he gets this emotion chip, and that's now part of his life, and he's kind of dealing with it here. He is then presented with an opportunity to become even more human in a physical sense. The Borg queen seduces him, says, "Oh, I'll give you, flesh and blood. I'll make you more human than you possibly imagine," all while she's essentially using him to, just get what she wants and, take over the Enterprise so she can assimilate Earth. And how that just kind of weaves in and out of the story. And then that's how it all comes to fruition at the end, is you have Picard and Data at the end against the Borg. And then there's the whole other story on the planet with Riker and Geordi and Troy helping Cochrane, fulfill history, essentially. So you've got a lot going on. You've got all these characters. You've got your 7 key characters plus 3 brand new ones, one of which is the villain. And they make it work so well. You tell these 2 parallel storylines, up there, down there, essentially, with everything sprinkled in there from the past, from previously that we've seen and that we know, and it just gels so wonderfully. Thank you for listening to my tech talk.
This is brought to you by no, that's exactly what I wanted. I've been looking forward to the description of this one for you. So after Generations was a pretty solid plot for the bridge. For this one, I want to give it a 10. But I feel like similar to a plot where if you don't know the back, almost like Khan. I think you mentioned this to me once. Almost like Khan, where if you don't know the backstory, you're kind of clueless.
Yes.
Is this similar?
You are taking the words right off of my notes. Not since Wrath of Khan has a previous episode been so necessary to have seen to understand the context of what you're watching in this movie. To fully understand Wrath of Khan, you need to see Space Seed. To fully understand this movie, you have to, at the very least, see Best of Both Worlds.
Correct.
Yeah. And because of that, I'll beat you to it. Because of that, I take a 0.5 point off this plot. Because it is so imperative to have seen something previous. This movie cannot stand on its own. I give the plot a 9.5.
That's exactly what I was giving it. Yep, I gave it a 9.5 as well. Okay, so there we go. All right. Next up, let's talk the cast. And, of course, we have no issues for the most part because most of the cast kicks ass. Of course, our crew, Patrick, Jonathan, Brent, LeVar, Michael, Gates, Marina, our usuals. But 3 big ones. You mentioned Alfre Woodard already. She's awesome. James Cromwell plays plays our good friend Zephram Cochrane. What were your thoughts on his performance?
Oh, I love James Cromwell. I mean, a lot of people say, I mean, he had been around forever. And a lot of people say that it was, oddly enough, his role as Farmer Hoggett in Babe that really got him recognition. You know, this is a guy who'd been acting for decades, and that's the
Correct.
one that gets him out there. But, you know, he's one step above that guy. Like, he's in so much. You know, you see him everywhere, you know, like, you know, Babe, this, you know, he was Jack Bauer's dad on 24. He was in, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Eraser. He was in I, Robot with Will Smith, you know, countless credits to his name. And he's such a fantastic actor. He's got a very natural approach to everything he does. Love James Cromwell.
Yeah, no, big time. And then, of course, making a return from her performance on Next Gen as the Borg Queen, one of my favorite actresses, Alice Krige. I've loved her since Cat People or Cat's Eye.
Sleepwalkers.
Sleepwalkers. That's right, Sleepwalkers. I know it's one of those Stephen King.
Yeah, one of those cat movies.
One of those feline movies. She's amazing. She's such a good Borg Queen. She's so
sinister and seductive.
Exactly. It's kind of like the female version of swarthy, but not exactly swarthy. Yeah, she was amazing. I got to give the cast a 10. I thought everybody hit their marks in this one.
Everybody does hit their marks in this movie. Like you said, Cromwell's great, you know, and he was no stranger to Trek either. You know, he had appeared on 2 episodes of Next Gen, 1 episode of DS9. Alfre Woodard, I cannot say enough about her. The whole scene where she's got Picard at phaser point, and, you know, he essentially explains to her what the situation is. The two of them, it's one scene, 2 fantastic actors, you know, punctuated by Mr. Goldsmith. We'll get to that. And then, like I said earlier, she calls him out, you know, another scene between these 2 powerhouses of talent. She's great. Alice Krige, absolutely. She just sells that so well. You know, she's sultry, she's sensual, she's wooing Data. She's got this quiet tone. She's almost whispering her lines, all while wearing, a leather, was essentially a leather bodysuit, and these giant wires coming out of her head, you know, but fantastic. And then, you know, let's just throw in a couple of bonuses. Like we said, we got Dwight Schultz, Bob Picardo, and Ethan Phillips, all reprising, you know, roles that we've previously seen. We have a very young Neil McDonough.
Yeah.
Who audiences of the CW Arrowverse will know as Damien Dark, among, you know, countless other roles that he's played, you know, freaking
Cap.
Wait, what?
Captain America.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's Dugan in the Captain America movies. You know, he showed up in the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie recently. Yeah, he's another one that's all over the place. And then my favorite Blink and You'll Miss Him cameo is Adam Scott from Parks and Recreation, popping up as the Helm officer on the Defiant, a character and actor we've never seen on Deep Space Nine, but yet he's somehow flying the Defiant.
I know. I know, it's weird.
Yeah. Crew is definitely on point. You know, Patrick Stewart, you can't say enough about him. Frakes, I got to give Frakes a major gold star, because this is the guy who's directing this movie and playing a significant role, you know, in what is essentially the B story of the movie, down on the planet, on Earth, not the planet. Jeez. I cannot give the cast a 10 though, because I give another 9.5 only because, our two ladies of the bridge crew, Beverly and Deanna, are kind of sidelined in this movie. Deanna's down on the planet with Riker and Geordi, and she has a fantastic scene in the bar where she's drunk and Cochrane is drunk, and it's brilliant. It's one of Marina's best. But after that, she just kind of disappears for most of the movie. She's there when they tell them, you know, the history of First Contact and everything. She's there to give the countdown to the launch. But that's really it. And then Beverly, poor Beverly, you know, she gets attacked in sickbay, you know, when she's treating Lily, and she's just kind of stuck on the bridge for the rest of the movie, just standing there waiting for stuff to happen. She just greets people at the hatch with a gun, and that's it.
That's great.
That's it. So sadly, the ladies get a little sidelined. So I give the cast a 9.5 as a result.
Okay, I'm being generous, but I understand. That's a fair point. Okay, so 9.5 for you, 9.5 for me.
Also, speaking of the cast, you talked about potential directors. Do you know who was considered for the role of Cochrane before James Cromwell was cast? No fair looking it up.
I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not doing that.
And I would have loved to, as much as I love James Cromwell, I would have loved to have seen this had it happened.
Let me think of an actor from the mid-90s. I'm not going to say anything obvious. Please don't say Nicolas Cage.
No.
Oh, thank God. Shoot myself in the bucket.
But another Oscar winner.
Oh. Well. Tom Hanks?
Tom Hanks.
Really?
Yep.
I got to be honest. I don't know if I would have gone for that. I love Tom Hanks, but I wonder if he would have swallowed the movie up, though.
That is a very fair point. However, in the alternate universe where Tom Selleck is Indiana Jones and Eric Stoltz is Marty McFly, I would have liked to have seen Tom Hanks as Stephen Cochrane.
And James Brolin is James Bond.
Exactly, yeah.
That would have been interesting. But again, I think that you would have had to put Tom Hanks. Let's put it this way. He would have been in the movie too much for him to not be at the top of the, and that's not fair to Patrick. He's the star of the movie.
Sure.
And I don't know if you'd waste him on a cameo, but Zefram Cochrane's not a cameo. So
no.
Yes, in our weird kind of warped cross wires minds, that would have been very, very interesting. But James Cromwell's just enough of a star that it fit that role perfectly. But I thought you were going to say Nicolas Cage, and I would have jumped out. I would have let myself. I would have blown out the warp core. But thank God for that. Okay. So you give. Wait, did I do this right? Okay. So you give a 9.5. Okay, and I give a 10. All right. Villain. I mean, it's the Queen.
It's the Borg, and then you add this whole new dynamic of you give them a face finally after all this time.
Correct. Is she a 10?
Yeah. The villain. I mean, depending on if we're talking about either the Borg or the Queen, I give it a 10 either way, because this is an established villain who has established its place as, sinister, menacing, nigh unstoppable. So you take that, you essentially level them up, because they have a brand new look in this movie. They're much sleeker. The makeup is better. The appliances aren't as bulky. They're really freaking terrifying in this movie.
They are.
Especially, combined with the lighting of the sets, how everything's dark and they're coming out of the shadows and all that. It's just this unstoppable force, the collective, the hive mind. And what gives it the extra oomph as a great villain is, unlike, Khan, who's out for revenge, or, Sybok, who's just kind of, crazy cult leader, or General Chang, who, is the Klingon opportunist, whatever you want to go, or Soren, who's just, out for themselves. The Borg are convinced that what they are doing is the right thing. And they always say that the worst villains are the ones who think they're the hero of their own story. And right there in the dialogue, the Queen, says, by assimilating others into our collective, we are bringing them closer to perfection. So that's their mentality. Oh, what we're doing is right. It's the rest of you who are wrong. And of course, Data fires back. The Borg do not evolve; they conquer. So, fantastic, just malevolent force. And yeah, they're this juggernaut that the crew you see them struggling to overcome as the whole movie progresses. They're firing shots that just, are like they say, it's like we're shooting blanks, as they adapt, and they spread out through the ship like a virus. Fantastic, just concept for an antagonist.
I agree. Before you had said that, I was going to say that our previous 10s for villains, we gave Khan a 10, we gave Krug a 10, and we gave Sauron a 10. So like you said, they match up with that. I'm give them a 10 as well because the expanded budget. Like, yes, are they menacing on the show? Absolutely, they were. But in the movie, the cinematic additions, like the upped budget and just the way it was shot and looked, made them even more terrifying.
Yeah, this is the movie. This movie is where you actually finally see the assimilation process and how awful and invasive it is. You see a guy get grabbed by the back of the head. You see the tubes go into his neck, and he immediately his skin starts falling off, and oh god, it's brutal.
It is brutal. I agree. And you've got things in their eyeballs and
yeah.
Well, when you see that kind of stuff, wait till you watch. If you haven't watched Star Trek Picard, you'll really start seeing that stuff. Unnerving. Okay, so 10 for the villain. It's the Borg. They're pretty much Picard's Klingons. So production value / effects / movie pieces, camera, sound, not music. That's separate. Camera, sets, the usual stuff we grade for production value.
Mm-hmm.
I almost think you could pretty much grade Riker too. We've done that in our past episodes. We've kind of talked about the directors as well in this category.
Yeah, that's my first note here is Frakes directing.
Yeah, Frakes is a lot like Leonard, very meticulous. Very he was and the difference for me. And I'm pretty sure if it's mentioned on the extras to the DVD and the Blu-ray, because most of the extras are the same. If you remember, Tech, when we talked back at when we talked about Part 3, Search for Spock, when Leonard was a little nervous, now he had to kind of tell his contemporaries what to do and everything. Different era of acting, older actors. I'm sure it's a different kind of protocol. I feel like this cast, and this is one thing I'll give the Next Gen cast an edge over the TOS cast, even though the TOS is my favorite. But the Next Gen cast gets an edge because they were not that the TOS cast weren't family, but again, they're old. They were old school actors back in the day. You followed your director, even if he was your best friend, and and Leonard was nervous about that. I feel like here, I think Frakes is like, guys, we're all having fun. I just got to sit in the chair, but let's have fun. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the camaraderie with them is different than the camaraderie that, the Shat and Leonard and Bone and, and DeForest and Nichelle and all them. But I don't think it has anything to do with the the love they have for each other. I think it's the generations of the business that's different. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. This is a team, a cast and a crew that this group has the benefit of, they didn't have a giant, decade-long gap between their show and movie. This crew hasn't stopped. They did 7 straight seasons immediately into a first movie, and they went home for summer break essentially, and then came back the next year to go back to school and see all their friends. So this is a group that hasn't missed a beat. They are absolutely a family. I would say even more so than the original cast, because that was always still, as sad as it may be to admit it, it was really about Shatner, Nimoy, and Kelly, and secondary was George, Jimmy, Nichelle, and Walter. So, but this group, they're all equals. They're all on the same footing. Yes, do Picard and Data get the spotlight in this movie? Absolutely. But in terms of a group of actors, yeah, they're absolutely a family. And Frakes has the advantage over Leonard Nimoy here in that, as we said earlier, Frakes had been directing. He's directed 8 episodes with this crew, not even counting the ones on the other show. Leonard had never directed anything before.
Correct.
Especially with that group. So he was just kind of like, okay, I hope I can do this right. And again, he had the benefit of being off screen or off camera for the majority of the Search for Spock, whereas Frakes is just, I've done this. I know exactly what works. I'm in front of the camera, behind the camera, and I doubt it's just blowing smoke, but everyone they talk to in all these interviews, if you watch the disc 2 on this movie, everyone has nothing but praise for Jonathan Frakes and his directing of this movie. Everyone loves how he handled it.
Yep.
And they couldn't have been more what's the word? They couldn't laud him more than they did.
Yes, I agree. So definite points for Will.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, and it kind of goes hand in hand, I thought the movie was shot very well. It flowed. It was exciting. There weren't any dead spots. I enjoyed the flow of the movie. I thought the dialogue was great. I thought the I don't want to mention the music too much yet, but they hit their spots in that aspect. But we'll get more into the music, obviously, in the last category. We had an Enterprise, and we had the 20th, almost 21st century. It was just exciting. I thought it was a well put together film, shot well. Effects were solid. What are your thoughts on some of those things?
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%. ILM is absolutely on their game with this movie in terms of, the real big graduation to CGI in terms of the movie effects. They're still using the Enterprise D model in Generations and the Bird of Prey model and all that. But here we get our first fully realized CG Enterprise with the and a new Enterprise at that. The Enterprise E, the nice and sleek Sovereign class. Who gets her grand debut shot set against a beautiful nebula in the opening of the movie to remind everyone, hey, we've got a new ship. So the effects on that are great. The entire battle, that opening where it's essentially Starfleet versus the Borg, not only looks great, but they had a lot of fun in designing 4 brand new starships.
Mm-hmm.
You see the Enterprise, you see the Defiant, you see like the Miranda class and Nebula class ships. But the 4 new ones were the Norway class, the Akira class, the Steamrunner class, the Saber class, all really slick looking ships. You can see all 4 of them on my desk, Scott.
I can. I look at them every day.
Thanks, Eagle Moss.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you travel back to 2063, and one of the biggest things that lends realism to this movie in terms of production design is the fact that your primary set on Earth is this decommissioned nuclear missile, Titan II missile silo. And they shot it in an actual U.S. Air Force Titan II missile silo. So you can't get much more authentic than that. So Correct. It's not just a bunch of guys looking at photos and trying to recreate a set. You're actually in it, and that, like I said, that lends an enormous amount of realism and credence to the production. That silos in the last one with a missile in it. Now it's a museum in Arizona, Pima Air and Space Museum. But in addition to that, the Enterprise sets, brand new corridors, brand new bridge, big wide bridge, to showcase on the big wide screen of movies. They Borgify the hell out of it with a bunch of hoses and exposed deck plating and all that. You've got a brand new engineering set that is, I think, 3 stories tall. Herman Zimmerman just went nuts with that one.
He absolutely did.
Yeah, giant engine room, multiple tiers and catwalks and all that. Big echoey chamber that looks cool, both clean and evil.
Yes.
Yeah, even the observation lounge on the new Enterprise has a nice callback with the models. Back in the early days of Next Gen, you've got those reliefs of all the previous Enterprises, the starships and the aircraft carrier. And here you've got these gorgeous gold-plated models kind of carrying that tradition. And then, to a lesser degree, this is the debut of the brand new Starfleet uniforms that will be immediately picked up by Deep Space Nine and, the episode like 2 or 3 weeks after the movie comes out. Like we said, we've got a much much improved Borg look in terms of makeup and costumes. Geordi ditches the visor and he gets his ocular implants, which I'm sure LeVar enjoyed because all you got to do is pop some contacts in rather than strap a hairband to your face. I'm sure you could see out of those a lot easier. And then the last thing I think is the most important, which is Dr. Crusher is now blonde.
That is true, which was strange.
Yeah.
Maybe she wanted to make herself a little, a little more cinematically beautiful. I don't know.
Yeah. All in all, you've got great looking effects. You've got great sets. You've got great. The one thing, though, I will say, this is where I can't give this a 10. I give this one another 9.5, and this is for a really silly reason. And that's the really wacky 21st century civilian attire that everyone's wearing in this movie. There are a lot of vests in 2063, and I don't understand why. Cochrane is wearing a vest. Lily is wearing a vest. LaForge is wearing a vest. Data's wearing a vest. Like, that's a lot of vests. So the idea of what we're all going to be wearing in 43 years is kind of silly. A lot of wool too. Big wool coat.
I know, right? When did it get so cold in 2063?
Yeah. Well, they are in Montana, so who's
that
to
is
say?
true. That is true. And
So, yeah,
finally, I know
5.
So me as well. I will go totally along with you on that. 9.5. All right. Finally, our fifth category, music. Jerry's back.
Jerry is back.
Jerry is back. Fitting, obviously. I think that's good for Will for the Frakes. I think he having that there as part of his creative process is very important. I think. I thought it worked well throughout the film. What'd you think?
I know a lot of people say that motion picture is Jerry's best Trek score, and that's fine. It's a wonderful score. This is my favorite Jerry Goldsmith Trek score. Of his 5, this is my favorite. This is his third of the 5, and this was the first CD I ever owned, was the score to this movie.
Really?
Really. And do you know where I got it, Scott?
Strawberries?
I got it at the Music Box.
Oh, Music Box. You for the little Connecticutites, you know where we're talking about. For you out of state, you won't, but that's okay. Shed a tear anyway.
I love the music to this movie. His quote unquote first contact theme is beautiful. It's sweeping, and he uses it at all the right times in this movie. From the opening credits where it just kind of hits. The thing that could make a lot of fans nervous is this movie opens with the Jerry Goldsmith. It's the Jerry Goldsmith version of the Alexander Courage TOS theme, and the last time we heard that was Star Trek V. So
I know.
I'm sure it made a few people nervous right at the get-go. Like, oh dear Lord, the last time we heard this was, the Final Frontier.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, anytime Worf is on screen, I think there's like 4 instances in the movie, we get his Klingon flourish all the way back from TMP. He blasts the hell out of it when we first see Worf on the Defiant. Like it's in battle mode almost. That theme is kind of slow and meandering in the first movie, and here it's high tempo. It's a lot of energy, like shit's going down. Klingon theme. Yep. And his Borg stuff, he uses these electronic elements. They're not quite as blaster beamish as the V'ger stuff. The wow, all that.
I know, wow.
Yeah, there's some appropriate like synth, chords and beats to they're the Borg. They're machines. They're cold and all that. And then in addition to the score, they throw 2 pop songs at us. They throw us some Roy Orbison, Ooby Dooby, which is a hilarious song. And James Cromwell's drunk dancing to it is a highlight of the film. And when the Phoenix launches at the end of the movie, they blast Steppenwolf's Magic Carpet Ride, which I can't think of a better song for that moment. And it's also good to see that when he plays that song, it's good to see that there will still be physical media in 2063. They will now be little transparent green hexagons, but there will still be physical media.
Absolutely. And I will always love that. Gotta love physical media. My shelves prove it.
Yeah. Goldsmith just nails it with this one, beginning to end. Action music, the subtlety of the Borg Queen seducing Data, big flourishes of, his next gen thing. That's the other thing. We didn't get in the first next gen movie, Generations, we did not get a single note of the next gen theme from Dennis McCarthy. And here, you know, Jerry just smacks you with it. Every opportunity he gets, right in the opening, right at the ending, and then here and there throughout the movie, in addition to everything else. Jerry gets a very, very well-deserved 10 on this one.
Yes, I concur. I never cannot give Jerry a 10. By the way, first 10 let's see. We've given 3 10s for music. Motion picture, because it's Jerry. 2, Khan. And this one. So you've given 3 of the first 3 of the first 8 you have given 10s to for music.
Because it's just it's always a strong point. I mean, yeah, they hit like Star Trek 4. I graded it low, but it's still enjoyable. The music of Star Trek is always a highlight. It's always going to be a highlight.
Yes, no, I agree 100%. All right, so I believe you and I are exactly equal, and we both. The only difference between you and I is this movie is in different slots for us in our overall list. So for you, 9.5 for plot, 9.5 for 10. Wait, 9.5 for plot, 9.5 for cast, 10 for villain, 9.5 for production value, and 10 for music, for a total of 48.5. Which gives you a half point over Khan for number 1 on your list, which doesn't surprise me.
Nope.
I have 9.5, 10, 10, 9.5, 10, also 48.5. However, it is second place on my list because Khan is 49.5, half point shy of a perfect movie. So, needless to say, we love this movie. I love it for many reasons, as do you. But overall, this one just hits a home run on all levels. Again, music, the cast, the story, just so well done. And one question needs to be asked. One guy that we really haven't talked about much tonight, and that is the guy whose face is biggest on the poster, and that is, of course, our captain, Jean-Luc Picard. Now, this is Picard's first movie by himself, or his character, not Patrick Stewart's, obviously, but Picard's first solo. Doesn't have to share the spotlight. Would you equate this to... I mean, obviously, it's different than it was for motion picture in terms of Kirk's role. Is this his Khan?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. And even I was going to definitely bring this up 2 episodes from now, because when we get to Nemesis, one of the selling points of that movie was the writers, the producers, whoever, saying, we're going to give Picard his Khan. We're going to create a villain, worthy of Picard. And we'll dive more into that. But I'm like, you already did that. Like, you did that with the Borg. Like, the comparison was already made. Like we said it earlier. You can't fully appreciate Wrath of Khan without having seen Space Seed. You can't fully appreciate this movie without having seen the best of both worlds. This is his Khan. And
Correct.
The fact that they glossed over that and attempted to do it from scratch, mind you, 2 movies from now, is laughable.
Correct.
And
yes.
I will go into much more detail 2 episodes from now.
Yes, we will. Yeah, no, he hit a home run. This movie hit a home run. $45 million budget, made $146 million. Not a long movie, 111 minutes, so an hour and 51 minutes. Good length, nothing too crazy.
The other thing we have to mention about this movie,
mm-hmm.
this came out for the 30th anniversary. This was big. 1996. This was big. The 30th. Every corner of the Trek universe was going all out. Not only did this movie come out and blow the doors off everything, DS9 did their anniversary episode with Trials and Tribulations, where the DS9 crew was inserted into the TOS episode, and Voyager did their episode Flashback, which featured Sulu's command of the Excelsior. In addition to that, they had the big network TV gala to celebrate Star Trek with the whole stage production and everything. So this was a big year, and this movie was a big part of that.
Yeah, and you know, it always worked out. I'm thinking back now to our years. We didn't have a 10-year movie, obviously. We did not have a 15-year movie because that would be 1981, which was 2 years after TMP and a year before Con. We did have a 20th anniversary movie, Save the Whales. We had a 25th anniversary movie, Undiscovered Country, which fit because it was the farewell to almost the entire TOS cast. And now we have a 30th anniversary movie. Mm-hmm. So it did work out. They kind of got it, for lack of a better term. I want to ask you this. This is a generally broad question. I'm going to put you on the fandom spot. I know you love stuff like this. I know that this is pretty much your favorite Trek movie of all time.
Yes, this is number 1 out of 13.
This is number 1 out of 13. And comfortable to say this is number 2 out of 13 for me. Not too far off of 1, as those two are pretty much head and shoulders over. Well, not head and shoulders, but I don't think my mind will ever change either. Where is this in your pantheon of favorite sci-fi movies? Like, where would you put this as compared to the other franchise across the hall?
All right, you want me to answer that question? Because I'm gonna give you the nerdiest answer possible.
That's why I asked. Is there any other kind of answer?
I'm gonna put the glasses on. I'm gonna push them up. I do not compare Star Trek to Star Wars. A lot of people like to say, like, "Oh, Star Trek versus Star Wars." The Kirk versus Han Solo or Data versus C-3PO, all that nonsense. Star Trek is science fiction. Absolutely. It's looking ahead at a possible future, exploring space and aliens and all that fun stuff. Star Wars is science fantasy. Every time somebody calls Star Wars sci-fi, it makes my skin crawl. Now, I don't mean to sound, elitist or snobbish or anything, but that's just a fact. Star Wars, the first thing you see in any Star Wars movie is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, which is just shy of saying once upon a time. You have, wizards with swords and magic in space in Star Wars. So I never compare the two. They are their own entities. They are both at the tops of their respective genres. Any science fiction TV series or movie franchise has a lot of work to do to ever catch up to Star Trek. Just in terms of longevity, we're approaching 55 years here in terms of legacy. Mm-hmm. But yes, in terms of if you're looking at the pantheon of science fiction cinema, if you go as far back to The Day the Earth Stood Still or Forbidden Planet or The Thing from Another World, and then, come up through, Blade Runner and, Dark City, gritty sci-fi. This one's up there. This is a great movie, not just a great Star Trek movie. This is a great movie. And I'm pretty sure Brandon Braga himself has said that, which is a little self-aggrandizing since he wrote half of it. But yes. I echo his sentiment saying, now I wish I could say that any casual moviegoer could jump into this movie and fully enjoy it. Probably not. Again, repeating myself, you really got to see the episode that this plays off of. However, a casual moviegoer may not have to actually enjoy this movie because there is enough exposition and context clues to tell you, oh, this is what happened to this character. This is why all of this matters. So this movie, as a movie, absolutely stands on its own in terms of just storytelling and science fiction. It's just good, beginning to end. All the categories we talked about. It looks great. It sounds great. It plays out great. It's great.
Another thing I'd like to say about this, to add on to this, and this is just my own personal feeling. You like how we kind of gone off into another whole world. But it makes sense because this movie, just like Wrath of Khan, are ones that stand alone for a lot of people as tremendous sci-fi films. I agree with you on the sci-fi and the sci-fantasy. The other thing is, Star Trek is not a continuing story. It is a franchise about a time in an expanded time in history involving a unified group, the United Federation of Planets, and its military extension, Starfleet, and the combination of exploration and protection. But other than common villains, the story changes based on whatever you're watching. Whereas with Star Wars, it's always been Jedi versus Sith, and ultimately Rebellion versus Empire. It's always the same bad guys and the same good guys spread out across multiple centuries, but with the same premise and the same theme. Do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like even if you go back to, and trust me, I'm as Tech can tell you, I'm a novel reader, so I know a lot of the expanded backstory just as much as the films, as does he. So it's all like the Clone Wars, and even before that with the Old Republic and the birth of the Jedi into the Jedi, and the disorganized Sith into Darth Bane, et cetera, et cetera. It's all one timeline and one story, whereas Star Trek is a premise and a landscape with which different stories are created. That's the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars. Star Wars has one story, the good guys and the bad guys, whether it's the Jedi and the Sith, the Rebellion and the Empire, it's all one timeline. Except Disney was trying to fuck with the timeline. The only bad thing I don't like about the mouse buying Lucasfilm, but that's another podcast for another day. Whereas Star Trek, we have our basis, Starfleet, United Federation of Planets, and different groups from that going off and doing their own thing. So that to me is the difference.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's where sci-fi versus sci-fantasy. But I agree with you. That's the sci-fi, because you can take Star Trek and almost treat it like a real thing if we were in the 20-something century. Whereas Star Wars, I don't know. Is there like a religion of it's pretty much, you can almost argue that Star Wars is Lord of the Rings in space.
Yeah, it's that kind of, hero's journey, fairy tale story.
You could argue that Obi-Wan or Yoda is Gandalf, and the Emperor is Sauron, and Vader is Saruman, and I'm just throwing shit against the wall. Please don't send me messages. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm just throwing names out.
Lucas Frodo and Frodo, yes. Han and all that. Who
looks like
or vice versa.
Yes.
Yeah, R2-D2.
R2-D2
and Legolas is C-3PO. Yeah,
exactly.
You could draw those comparisons all day long.
Yeah. So anyway,
I saw a great Twitter feed about a month ago. It was, who would you cast Lord of the Rings with Muppets? But that's a whole nother conversation.
I think we'd have to expand that to a roundtable of our place to be pop experience stars. I think Andy Atherton and Jennifer Smith and the crew, I think, would get a kick out of that. That'd be a fun story. So there we go. Star Trek First Contact. Hope you enjoyed it. Please watch the movie, even if you know nothing about Trek. And if you don't, get in on it. It's a lot of fun. All the shows are streaming. Me being the physical media, flunky that I am, I own the two of them. I own the original series on Blu-ray, and I own Next Gen on Blu-ray. Voyager will probably never see on Blu-ray. Enterprise is already on Blu-ray. And then there's Deep Space Nine, which is its own labor of love in itself. We talk about it, and Tech and I talk about it all the time. Will Deep Space Nine ever get the HD treatment? Who knows? But sadly, the DVD set is built like garbage. So,
the original one, you sneeze on it and it cracks.
So, where can everyone find you, sir?
Oh, the usual places. You can find me on Twitter at Hal Dameron, HALDAMERON, or on Instagram at Technicolor, T3KNIKOLOR.
There you go. Of course, you can find me on Twitter at PTB Podfather. You can find the Place to Be Nation Facebook page as well, where we put all of our podcasts, as well as, of course, on the feed, placetobe.podbean.com. And, of course, we have both the Pop feed and the Place to Be Wrestling Network, of which I am the purveyor. Of course, this wonderful feed you're listening to now, purveyed by Andy Atherton, and he does a great job. So that'll do it. Join us next week for one of my guilty pleasure sci-fi movies of all time. It may not be the best Star Trek movie, but I always defend it. But you can ask Tech. I always defend it pretty hard. We are of course talking about Star Trek Insurrection, which is one of my favorites. Maybe it's my love of F. Murray Abraham. But anyway, which I just saw in an episode of Blue Bloods the other night. That guy's just great. But more on him next week. He's Tech. I'm Scott. And buy a vest and resist.
You beat me to it.